This is Mike Hutchinson from UFC Fight Discussion, bringing you results from UFC 158, Georges St-Pierre versus Nick Diaz. The first bout of the pay-per-view was Mike Ricci against Colin Fletcher. This fight was really close and also not quite the barn burner, but Mike Ricci did land a takedown in the first and third round and almost pulled off a submission to earn the unanimous decision victory over Colin Fletcher. The next fight was Nick the Promised Ring against Chris Camozzi. Again, this wasn't the most exciting, entertaining fight, as both fighters were pretty sloppy on the stand-up, but Chris Camozzi outstruck Nick Ring to earn, again, a unanimous decision victory. And now here comes the exciting part of the card, the welterweight tournament. In the Nate Marquardt-Jake Ellenberger fight, we knew somebody was going to get knocked out. I thought Nate Marquardt would knock out Jake Ellenberger. Jake Ellenberger ended up proving me wrong by knocking out Nate Marquardt in the first round from lethal ground and pound. In our co-main event of the evening, we had a possible Fight of the Year candidate between Condit against Johny Hendricks. At the beginning of the fight, Johny Hendricks was very threatening on the feet and also took the fight to the ground. Condit was constantly looking for submissions, got the fight back up to the feet, and ended up picking apart Johny Hendricks in the feet, forcing Hendricks to start taking him down again. The second and third round were the same, with Johny Hendricks constantly taking the fight down, Condit constantly getting back up, back and forth battles on the feet, and Johny Hendricks took the fight by unanimous decision. And in our main event of the evening, Georges St-Pierre defended his title against Nick Diaz. We all knew that Georges St-Pierre would come out with the wrestling strategy, and he did so right off the bat, taking Nick Diaz down. For the first two rounds, Georges controlled Nick on the ground for the most part, landing strikes every so often. In the third round, Georges stood with Nick Diaz for a longer time, with both trading some good shots. The fourth and fifth round looked a lot like the first and second for Georges St-Pierre as he took down Nick Diaz, though Nick Diaz did stuff a lot of Georges St-Pierre's takedowns, but as I expected, Georges St-Pierre ended up winning the fight by unanimous decision. Overall, very entertaining pay-per-view. I ended up going 2-5 in my picks. How did you do in your picks? And who do you think will Georges St-Pierre face next? I personally think that it's about time that Johny Hendricks gets to face Georges St-Pierre for the welterweight championship. If you want the most comprehensive coverage of UFC and all other MMA, like us on Facebook, UFC Fight Discussion. You can also follow us on Twitter @Fight Discussion. And if you want to follow me, my Twitter handle is @TheMikeHutch1. That wraps things up for UFC 158 GSP versus Diaz. Join us next time for Fuel TV 9 Gustafsson versus Mousasi. This has been Mike Hutchinson for UFC Fight Discussion.